Let's think now more about student talk. Some questions that we're going to consider are, how do I support habits of courteous dialogue? How do I make sure students' talk is on task? And what supports do students need for dialogue that does create understanding? When students are working in groups, talking together is an important part of their work. We know that dialogue can build understanding, but students need support for holding effective dialogue. Giving students talking chips is one way to make sure there are no conversation hogs or silent somebodies. Students move or flip their chip when they talk. Once they've used their chips, they can't add to the discussion again until everyone else has also used theirs. If you use this approach with whole class discussions, you can then support students to using chips during small group discussions. Younger children sometimes benefit from having a talking stick for each group. Only the person with the stick can talk. This reinforces the importance of turn taking. Again, introducing this approach whole group is important for using the tool successfully later in small group discussions. Creating authentic tasks that build on students' interests keeps the talk on task. If students care about the activity, then they're more likely to stay on task. But they also have to be very clear about what that task is. So modeling and providing supports like activity cards for each group can keep the talk on task. And if the tasks themselves are aligned to your KUDs, then they are likely to support understanding. Students help each other put those pieces together. We also need to think about how students are managing their time and materials. Are the routines going smoothly? Do transitions happen without loss of instructional time? These are some questions that we need to consider. Transitions often result in lost instructional time. We can minimize this problem by giving clear getting started instructions, or by giving them a prompt to think about while they moved. Build in silent thinking transitions, or keep expectations really tight for how students are going to quickly manage transitions. Giving clear instructions, setting limits for time, and appropriate noise level can make transitions smoother. Even though it takes time to get transitions tight, it's worth it to go back and try it again. The time spent rehearsing this process really pays off quickly. So, some questions that you might consider. What do students do when they first enter the class? Where do students put their work when they're finished, or work they need to do over the course of several days? What are the rules about student movement? How are classroom materials handled? And how do I keep track of students' progress? Are you and your students clear about the answers to these questions? Like we saw in the video with Mrs. Rex's class, having students manage materials can make the transition smoother. It also builds more responsible, independent student citizens. Even kindergarten students can take on these responsibilities if we take the time to model the process. A place for everything and everything in its place is never more true than in the classroom. When there are 20 or 30 bodies and all the accompanying learning paraphernalia in the room, organization is really key. So teaching kids systems for handling paperwork helps to maintain order in the classroom, and it teaches an important life skill. The key to organizational patterns is that the children have access to their own work, know how to find what they need to accomplish a task, and know what to do with it when they finish. When open-ended tasks and projects are involved, some flexibility needs to be built into the time schedule. This allows you to address children's individual needs and to make adjustments based on where students are in the work. Make sure that students know what to do when they finish a task. Something that's tied to the current activity works best to extend students' learning. It shouldn't always be get out your silent reading book or draw a picture of what you wrote. Free reading's a great activity, but if students take their current learning even further, that's better. Some teachers have what they call anchor activities that students can choose from when they finish. Things like practicing skills at the computer, reading from supplementary material, free reading, journal writing, vocabulary extension, independent studies, current events reading, and investigating class questions are good options. Let me say a little more about investigating class questions. If you're in the middle of a lesson and a student asks a really good content question that you don't know the answer to, you can have students write the question on a sticky note and then have a special place where those questions live. Students who finish a task early can have the option of going to the question board, choosing a question, and investigating the answer. Whatever your options for anchor activities, it's important that there are clear routines in place for how they will be completed. You don't want the anchor activities to create management issues, so they'll need to be introduced and practiced. Teach one key anchor activity at a time. Explain why the activity is important and what are the objectives. Make sure directions are clear and the materials are easily accessible. Start with one or two anchor options and expand from there. You can also give your students the chance to propose new options for anchor activities. When you have the chance to teach for larger chunks of the day in your second placement, it's important to look across the day and see that there are different learning configurations represented. Is there time for individual, partner, small group, and whole group work? Mixing it up keeps learners engaged, and matching the grouping strategy to the activity provides for optimal learning. Keep in mind the hotspot solutions that we've discussed as you plan for differentiated instruction. Now let's take a moment to talk about your final project. Can you believe it's that time already? Here are the instructions from the syllabus. Take a second and read over those. So, hopefully many of your lessons are differentiated at this point, and the final project needs to reference one of these differentiated lessons as an example. This can't be the tiered lesson or raft that you've already turned in. It needs to be another differentiated lesson. Let's look at some of the options for this project. So you've got your own raft menu. You can mix and match these options. For example, you could choose your role from the first row, your audience from the fourth row, your format from the second row, your topic from the third row. You can mix and match in any way that you want, or you can come up with an entirely new option of your own by posing your own role, audience, format, and topic. The important thing is that, as it says in the syllabus, it provides evidence of your understanding of key principles and practices of differentiation. You'll get a grade on the product that you turn in, but I'll also be paying attention to your presentation. You'll be presenting in small groups of 4, with each person having about 20 minutes to present. Your goal during the presentation is to extend the understanding and insight of others in regard to differentiation. That comes from the syllabus too. During the presentation, you'll share your product with the group. If it's an article, they can read the article, but pose some discussion questions to the group or give them some thinking points to consider before they start reading, or both. If it's a PowerPoint, you can show it to your group on your laptop, but be sure that the notes are complete because that's the content that you'll be graded on. Spend some time thinking about your product. Because this is the final product for this course, it should be a capstone that really demonstrates your understanding. It will take some time to create a quality product, so plan ahead. It won't be a quality product if it's completed at the last minute. Here's the final project rubric. It's in your syllabus. And I want you to pay really careful attention to the criteria here. You'll need to turn in a self-assessment along with the project. I suggest using the rubric as a guide while planning and while you're completing the project. So look at it beforehand. And then do the self-assessment well in advance of the due date so that you still have time to make revisions that your self-assessment might reveal. Notice that the knowledge and understanding are worth 10 points each for a total of 20 points. So that's where the majority of the points for this project come from. Presentation's worth 5 points. What I'm really interested in is what you know and understand about differentiation as a result of this course, how to plan for it, and how to manage it. There's a simple template available in Blackboard for your final project proposal. You need to upload that final project proposal to Blackboard by Sunday, November 20th at midnight. If you're having any questions about completing it, you can email me. We can set up a time to talk if needed. It's just a matter of circling things on the raft or coming up with your own option for role, audience, format, and topic. That's all that you're getting approved. So it's a pretty simple form to fill out. Hopefully you've reviewed the syllabus and you've been thinking about this final project. I'm happy to help you refine your ideas if you have questions. So for today's class session, upload your notes to Blackboard, scan them if they're handwritten, and thanks for participating in this flexible format.